Let's uncover the false lovers in your life. And welcome to my new series, Faux My name is Jo Krill, and I just want to share what I've learned. This is how I've created the life of my dreams, and it's still on the rise by figuring out where I was just part-time in my own life. I was full-time in my career. I was full-time for my family, but part-time for me. And the first thing I want to talk to you about is the false lover of boundaries. Boundaries are the stepping stone into your new identity. But what makes boundaries a false lover is that you're missing some information. So in this series, I am going to uncover a part-time lover in your life, and I'm going to give you a little bit of information about it. I'm going to tell you how you know this stuff is happening, where in your body can you feel it. And then I'm also going to give you a shift into how you can create full-time in any of these areas. But let's start with boundaries. So to uncover the part-time in your boundary, what are you complaining about? Are you complaining about people breaking your boundaries? Are you feeling resentful that you're feeling kind of unseen? Or there's a double standard in your relationship, either with men or women, that certain behaviors don't work with certain people? When you find this, that means that you're becoming aware that boundaries aren't the end all. They are just part of your foundational step of your identity. And when you are feeling like you're not feeling seen and people are constantly walking all over you or they're expecting stuff of you and you feel unmet, you don't have any boundaries, my friend. And the more you think you have boundaries and the more you talk about your boundaries being broken, the more you are kind of digging in that little rut of, I'm powerless. And you are not powerless. And what we need to do is you need to brace yourself for some more information. So take a deep breath. And let's talk about two kind of boundaries that help me figure this whole thing out. And the first one is internal boundaries. Your internal boundaries are the boundaries that you set with yourself. When you decide that you want to become this high value woman, you already have everything else in life. Now you want to create peace, which is highly valued. Become that high value woman that creates peace in her life. And the people that highly value peace will come seeking you. But that peace starts with you. And it starts with you having the internal boundaries to say no when you know it's not good for you. To meet with your counsel, your mind, your heart, and your womb before every decision. Internal boundaries are how you reparent yourself as the devoted, loving mother that's just ready, willing, and able to hold any one of your little girls and any one of your triggers and be able to say, we're not doing that again, and stick to it. And how this ended up in my life was that I thought I was being taken advantage of. And what I was doing is I didn't have any boundaries. I didn't have boundaries to say no. I had friends that kept asking for money, and then paying me back wasn't quite as important as making sure they could get the money the next time. I learned about how when people do ask you for money, they start with something small and then they go for something big, and then it takes years for them to pay you back. I kept falling into that because my internal boundary of keeping my money for me and my family, I wasn't meeting it. Now, that's not a bad thing, because what I learned from my parents is that generosity is a value, and of course it's a value. But knowing when that value needs to be boundaried by the word no. And internal boundaries is the first no. Now let's take a look at your second kind of boundary, and that is going to be your external boundary. And this is when you have to actually speak the boundary, and that is the word no. It doesn't have to come with an explanation. It can, because we're generous, kind people. We're compassionate people. Saying no is a complete sentence, but of course you want to back it up with something to ease the blow of the no. And you can certainly do in that by, but thank you for thinking of me. Or my money is earmarked for something else. I had to do this one time sitting at a table of 4 of us. We were all old colleagues. We retired, years ago, haven't seen them for years. We got together, and even though everybody is racking up their bill with drinks, I wasn't. And at the end of the night, 3 drinks in and dinner, they wanted to split a $400 bill. My bill was not $400. My bill was probably $30. That's when the word no and a boundary comes. And you don't need to say anything other than that, although it's very uncomfortable owning that no without the value and the truth underneath. And this is what I offer you in my new course called Occupy. And in this course, it's a free masterclass that I'm going to air live on YouTube. So send me a DM and I will make sure that you see this invitation. And this is going to feed into a summer program that we're going to wrap up the summer with. Everything I've learned has gotten me to this point, but it didn't get me to this point in one day or 1 hour or one video. This has taken me 10 years. It started when I left my ex-husband and just ping-ponged around, knowing that my hometown wasn't where I belonged, but I probably don't necessarily belong here either. But what I learned is that I belong with me. And how do you know when your boundaries are broken? What does it feel like inside when your boundaries are broken? And in my 10-year journey, this took me probably 8 years. And being a woman in the second half of my life, I learned that I was conditioned. I'm veiled. I don't see how I allow this just because of the society we grew up in, because of all the different things that were going on with the politics, with the religion, with social media coming online. I mean, at first through cable TV and dial-up. And since the 90s, it's just been constant, moving up, changing constantly. It's not like it was in the old days, and we are wired for the old days. So if any of this is triggering you, it's because you're operating under a veil and your body is telling you so. Or you have cognitive dissonance in your head. And of course, once you can get in there, you can figure it out. And again, I offer this for you. I have a structure called Awareness 360 that you grid your consciousness level so you see it on paper, and then you can make the next step. Well, how do I get from survival to thrive? Well, these are the things I need to give up. It's mostly about what you need to give up. It's not about what you need to do more of. So as you figure out where you're just part-timing it, you're not walking your talk, you're just complaining that everybody's just rolling over you without saying anything or doing anything unless it's steeped in anger, unless it's steeped in rambling or over-explaining. When the simple thing to say, which is the most difficult thing to say, is, no, thank you for asking, and just walking away. You're not available for conversations that are not valuable to you. And when people are coming up and asking you for stuff that's not valuable to you. Now, if it's your child, that's a different story. But when we're talking about men or adults, friends in your life, splitting a $400 bill when mine was only $30, that's asking a lot for friends in your life, where that energy will never come back to me. Is that being petty? Is that being protective or defensive? I like to see this as being selective. I am selective about where my energy goes, and I'm just not willy-nilly throwing it around for anyone, especially people that you're not going to see every day. These retired principals, I haven't seen them in years, and I won't see them again. The energy just doesn't work for me. It's the old energy where I didn't have boundaries then. Well, now I do, and now I feel uncomfortable being in there. And this is your next part. How do you know? How do you know when your boundaries are broken, when you feel like you're sitting in shit? You endure moments in silence. You sit there, you let people run over you. You let other people decide how the bill's getting split, and you just silently agree. You've lost the fight to preserve yourself, so you just allow yourself to be siphoned, and your body feels it. It could be in exhaustion, frustration. You're sitting there, you can't do anything about it because you have this belief in your head. When you push your own needs aside over and over and over again, you let something go, you let something go, you don't feel the pain, you shove it down for later, but later never comes. You keep telling yourself that you're not important to even uphold your own boundaries, and that gets wired in as a pattern. And it's probably something you created when you were 3. So these need to be looked at and rewired, because it can be done. And this is how you're going to do this. This is how you're going to become a full-time boundary boss. I don't want you to become a boundary boss, because you're past that. Right now, it's just about solidifying our boundaries so that we never have to speak them again. And when we never have to speak our boundaries outside of us again, or very little, that means that we are now acting through our values, which is eliminating decision fatigue, which is probably eliminating some fun in our lives. But in the long run, the value that you desire is what you need to uphold. Last story before I get into the how to become full-time is, and the answer is quite simple. It's to stay in that pose. So last story, I am a ballroom dancer, and I was at a dance, and I do not ask men to dance. After this evolutionary psychology class I took last semester, I came to it with a different conscious level. I now understand how Mother Nature works and its natural selection, and the women are the selectors. And now that I know that, I can select for myself in 2026, in the age of safety. We are safer than we've ever been in human history, but we feel like we're not. because of social media, because of news, because of what's coming in outside of us that we don't have a boundary around. So because I don't ask men to dance, if there's not enough men or very few men, I'll end up sitting half the night. I don't like that. But I'm not going to run around and ask men to dance, because it puts me in that chasing energy. And then I'm going to feel resentful. And another interesting fact about men is when you chase them, they'll be nice about it and say yes. And when they're done with you, they'll probably not treat you well or just give you the minimum. And then they won't look at you again. So knowing that, matching their energy, but not being the first one in the physical world to do it. You can look at them, you can drop the hanky, but you do not move. That is how you do it. You match the energy and you observe. And if it's with a woman, you match her energy. And there are some instances where I didn't know it at the time, but I didn't feel good at the time, and now I know why. Where my energy was siphoned. It was siphoned financially, emotionally, mentally, physically at a luncheon. I'll have to talk to you about that some other time. But here you are with your part-time lovers. Let's start walking our talk. If I set a boundary that I am not going to ask a man to dance, and I'm sitting half the night feeling sad, almost cried twice, but I'm holding my boundary. I'm staying in the uncomfortableness because I am tethered to the value that I don't chase, I attract. All right, ladies, I will see you in the next in the series. I don't know what it's going to be about. So if you have a suggestion on where you think you have part-time lovers in your life and you're not jumping full in with what you need to do to not just protect you, but give you the option to be selective. If you don't have boundaries, people are going to walk all over you, and your selection process is going to be after it's done. Let's turn that around. Join Occupy so that we can turn that around and be able to hold it and stay into it, even if we're not being asked to dance. All right, ladies, I'll see you in the next video.